Are review embargoes bad? Okay, so I saw, I saw, but I have observed a trend that seems to be picking up steam. And I noticed a lot in our coverage at CES this year of people feeling like, and expressing their feeling, that review embargoes, or basically literally anything other than all the information all at once, is like unethical, like it's scummy, it's awful. And so I guess what I want to talk about is why information embargoes do exist and the pros and cons for all of the various parties involved.
There are definitely cons, and I think they are sometimes abused by companies. So it depends on, as we go through this, one of the nuances to keep in mind is how they're used.
Absolutely.
The idea of one embargo for one product is not always how it goes. It's actually, depending on what company it is, sometimes that's very far from the reality.
Yeah, we've called out NVIDIA in the past for taking one GPU and saying, okay, here's the embargo for the announcement it exists. Here's the embargo, and okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit. Okay, I'm going to add some extras, but multiple embargoes for one product. So I'm not going to say NVIDIA anymore. I'm just going to say we have had companies hit us with variations of... Dan, are we... Okay.
Yeah, sorry, just taking a screen cap.
Hit us with variations of, here's the embargo for that it exists at all. Here's the embargo for the basic specs. Here's the embargo for some new technology that it supports, or a deeper dive. Here's the embargo for the unboxing. Yeah. Here's the embargo for performance analysis.
It's like, okay, that's clearly because you're trying to milk content.
Yes, you're trying to extend the news cycle as long as possible, essentially asking the media to do free advertising for you. Because a lot of that stuff is not really asking them to do any, input anything. They're just repeating what you've told them because that's the only information they have. However, that doesn't always mean that that's a bad thing. A lot of the time, what happens with a show like CES, because it happens on these days, only these days, is that companies aren't fully ready yet. This may surprise you, but companies are made up of people who, like you, stayed up late playing video games sometimes and missed a deadline sometimes, or ran into a challenging problem sometimes. And you know what? The one that they have at CES on those days might be held together by wood screws and duct tape. And it might not be ready to be benchmarked. Honestly, I was kind of taken aback when NVIDIA allowed us to game on the 5090 at all.
Yeah.
Under any circumstances. When AMD allowed us to game on the Ryzen AI Max Plus at all. The fact that AMD let me pick the game.
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
I was blown away. That's not normal. None of that is normal. That was pretty cool of them to take this.
Usually you can't even open the settings screen, let alone change settings, let alone change the game, etc.
To take this pre-release, not fully, ready for consumer primetime stuff, and let us show it early, demonstrates a lot of confidence and actually a relatively high degree of openness. And then to kind of see this, this sentiment that was pervasive in the comments that they were scummy for not letting us do more. It's not a performance review. And even if they did let me do everything that I could possibly want to, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I've got maybe an hour.
Especially to have proper rigor.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I don't know. And realistically, they gave us enough that we were able to give you guys something, especially the Ryzen AI Max. The fact that we could play that game at all. And don't go conspiracy theory, guys. I saw people being like, yeah, and that scene, they picked that scene because it's relatively light. No, I picked that scene because I haven't actually played Black Myth Wukong yet, and I just bought it. I bought it in AMD's booth, and that's the beginning of the game. That's why I ran that scene. And the reason that we picked Black Myth Wukong was because it's a really demanding game, and I wanted to see, can this thing do console-level graphics in a thin, tablet-like device? And that happened to be the game that MSI, in the next booth over, had on a drive. Guys, sometimes it ain't that deep.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I thought that was really cool. I think it's a really exciting chip.
Genuinely pretty awesome.
Anyway, so we've got a kind of a summary from the writing team that they put together, and of the kind of the pros and cons. So pros, from a brand perspective, you have time to communicate your message and your product details to reviewers. Because because otherwise, think about it, you can't brief everybody at once on a new product. You could do a Zoom call, but people are going to have questions. They'll have follow-ups. You need time to disseminate information. So having a gap between when you first start doing that and when everyone can go public with it buys you time. The brand also has time to address potential issues before public release of the information and even potentially public release of the product. We have seen problems that have been found by reviewers that have been fixed by the time the product hits the public. Now, should brands be using reviewers as beta testers? No, probably not. And does that create a huge amount of extra burden in some cases because you have to redo all your testing once they patch it? Yeah, and that's not cool and that's not fair. But is that way better than a buggy product hitting consumers? Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Cons. You can lose buzz around the launch if reviews are delayed, especially if the details leak early. I think there are exceptions to this. I don't think Nintendo has lost any Switch 2 buzz because of all the leaks, if anything.
Dude, did you see the views on that video? That's one thing I don't think we actually talked about.
Number one trending.
Yeah. I checked the views on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And it beat the views on the Steam Deck in 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
All-time Steam Deck.
All Nintendo would have to do to be the top YouTuber in the world is release a new console every day.
Yeah. It's already at 16 million views. Yeah,
that's wild.
Be interesting.
Okay, so another con. It could be seen as an attempt to control the narrative or limit transparency. And in some cases, we have seen that. For reviewers, a pro is that it gives all the reviewers a shared deadline and takes away some of the sort of feeling that you can have that you need to rush in order to support yourself in your livelihood and hit the content earlier, because there is a strong financial, not to mention just dopamine incentive to publishing something that gets a lot of views.
You might still have,
and that's very human,
a very considerable amount of pressure.
Absolutely.
Because maybe the deadline versus when you get the thing,
sure,
are not really that far away from each other.
I am going through this list as a sort of in good faith, if everything's working properly manner, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. If everyone has a shared deadline and some people get 2 weeks with it and some people get 3 days, well, you kind of still have the same problem, don't you? But if a real good faith effort is made to get everyone the product at the same time, get everyone the briefing at the same time, and then have everybody release the information at the same time so that we get these multiple perspectives, but people have time to do their work, that can be a benefit. Another pro is that it can give reviewers the ability to plan and allocate resources to cover multiple products. During times like around CES, around Computex, Techtober, there can be a lot of launches. And if we have embargo dates communicated to us ahead of time, it allows us to plan our production. For instance, we made the call to not do a full review of the Arc B570. We knew it was going to be Arc B580, but slower and cheaper.
I thought the live stream was a really cool idea.
Yeah, the live stream was cool, but we didn't actually use the B570 in the live stream.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, we used the B580 because we basically what we built was a strategy to address the two major questions that we had outstanding. How much of the opposite of uplift? Downfall? Not downfall, but anyway, how much performance loss was there compared to the B580? And we were able to do that with a little bit of light labs testing and a short circuit. So there's the B570, kind of what we said what we need to say about it. The other major thing that we've wanted to look at for Arc is how's the game compatibility on Battlemage? And then that's where the stream came in, where we let viewers submit their suggestions for games that we could try side by side against an RTX 4060. But cons for reviewers. Brands can seriously hamper the review process, like Luke said, by delaying access to the product. It restricts our ability sometimes to cover products in a timely manner. Like if we okay, I don't know if it restricts our ability to cover things. There can be pressure to have your review published the moment the embargo lifts, because otherwise no one's going to watch it or read it. And it's, in a way, forcing you to kind of play the game, right? To work with companies and agree to these embargoes, to get early access to the products, to support yourself, to have your livelihood, right? Like it puts you at companies' mercy a little bit. But the reality of it is that's just how it works. You can just source products yourself. We do it for Apple. For instance, Apple has zero working relationship with us, and I think we still manage to cover their products. But it is definitely beneficial to have a product explained by the people who built it. Not just beneficial for us, but beneficial for the viewer. So let's get into the benefits for the viewer. You get more comprehensive, well-researched reviews that include multiple perspectives. Our personal perspective, we can get perspectives from, outsiders, we can get perspectives from the brand and build the most complete picture that we can. It also helps build trust in the review process, because if everything's just kind of coming out in leaks and dribbles and drabs and people are rushing things because there's, no time and they're just trying to get things up as quick as possible, I think that can erode trust. But the con is consumers may perceive cooperation with embargoes as the reviewer being influenced by the brand. And I think that basically just comes down to how influenced you are by it. And in some cases, I think some people are. I think some people are very not influenced by it. There's a lot of publications that if they, got a briefing on a product and they got shipped a GPU, I'd be like, yeah, and? Like what? Is someone gonna say that Hardware Unboxed is gonna give better coverage to a GPU because, or Wendell from Level 1 Techs is going to give better coverage to a GPU because NVIDIA sent it to him? Please. If Wendell was for sale for the price of a GPU, I'd be the first one in line to buy him.
You'd have to, I don't know about that. I'll get there pretty quick.
Right? See, that's what I'm talking about.